Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Today is Wednesday, October 8th. And make sure where I'm at. Let me double check that. But I believe if we're watching it in the live stream, it is Wednesday, October the 8th. Yep. And if you're watching the replay, of course, that's when it was recorded. But in any event, we'll give a few moments for some folks to get into the live stream, and then hopefully we'll get rocking and rolling. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. Hump day, as they say, although that always has such a weird connotation to me, like you're not happy for the week to be here. I get it, a lot of us are anxious for it to be over with, but yeah, I don't understand why people are so upset about the middle of the week because, you know, but anywho, I guess because they be living for the weekend. We're all good as far as I'm concerned. Let me see. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Bear with me. Okay, cool. Just had to make sure I was live in the right place. Start second guessing myself there for a moment, but I am. So, again, happy Wednesday to you. It looks like some folks are starting to come in now. We got at least one in the house. Welcome. Happy Wednesday to you. Hmm. Keep going in and out. Okay. Hi, Sarah Fidler. How are you? Or Fiddler? Welcome in. Welcome to the live stream. I was trying to give a few moments for some folks to get in here so we can get going. I really didn't have a specific topic today. I mean, I did go back through some stuff that we were talking about the other day and was kind of doubling back on that, but I was waiting to see where the conversation takes us today. How are you? You say you're doing good. That's good to hear. Glad to hear. And welcome. If this is your first time here, hello, Alex Batty. Welcome. Have you been in here before? Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Uh, You haven't been in, but I didn't think I remember seeing your name before, Alex. But I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll stick around with us for a while and enjoy the conversation today. We get into various spiritual conversations. Don't get alarmed because it's not, like I said, it ain't church now. We get into some scripture, but yeah, it's not it's not your typical spiritual conversation. Let's just put it that way. I talk a lot about the scriptures as they line up with the ancient text, the primarily the Lost Book of Enki, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and, going far back into our recorded history, because those books actually do not contradict the Bible. They give a lot of context and enlightenment information to the Bible. Yeah. See, if you're here, it's no mistake, I promise you. If you are here, it is no mistake. This channel is too small for me to think for a moment that if it came across your screen, it's because your guides want you here for sure. Yeah. So I mean, if anybody has any questions, you can certainly put them in. Or you can direct the chat, kind of, because that's normally what I do. I just kind of see where the conversation takes us. I was looking over a recent. Well, I say a recent. It was a live stream. My name's Teresa. For what? Why do I need to do that, Sarah? I'm a little bit leery of when people come into the live stream and ask me to start saying things at random, because I know that they can turn around and use sound bites for all other kinds of reasons. So I'm just wanting to know why you want me to say that. If your name is Sarah, why do you want me to be saying somebody else's name? But Yeah, about 3 weeks ago now, we got into a conversation about the nature of Yahweh. Oh, well, happy birthday to your son, then. Absolutely. Happy born day, Tommy. Many wishes to you. Absolutely. Yay. Hey, sorry, CC. Welcome in. Welcome in. I was just telling them, how you been doing? Are things kind of leveling out for you a little bit, CC? Hopefully. Oh, he's 4. Awesome. Hey, Paul Snowcloud. Welcome. 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 I was just thinking about you earlier today because you know how you said you need to go. You'll be back next time. You're always welcome here, Alex Batty. Absolutely. Um, but you know how sometimes when spirit starts lining things up for you, and you don't, if you're not real certain whether or not it's something that spirit is lining up or whether it's just your imagination, you get like confirmation after confirmation after confirmation after confirmation until you can't really deny it anymore. And I'm having that kind of 24 hours. Hey, Brooklyn Miss, welcome, welcome. Oh, awesome. Glad to have you in today. Awesome. Um, but yeah, y'all, I'm having that kind of day. I had a very interesting conversation with Paul yesterday or day before, and it gave me a lot of encouragement. But it was like looking for, I mean, because we're all having issues with finances and when things are coming in, when our manifestations are coming, those sorts of things. So I had a very encouraging conversation with Brother Paul, and then right after that, I this morning I got not an email, a text message from my daughter-in-law that kind of lined up with that. She was at trying to arrange a surprise for my son, and I'm more encouraged now than I have been in a while because my situation with them has literally been a year in trying to make it happen, but I really really feel like it's going to get there. And then all of a sudden I was getting all these ideas about ways that I could try to incorporate all of the platforms in my content creation, ways to pare down my messages and pare down the readings so that I'd have time to kind of put myself out there on 3 different platforms as opposed to putting all of my time and attention into YouTube. Not that I don't uh Tommy ain't gonna be able to say nothing in the live stream, honey. There's no audio here, so we good. He can't say nothing unless you give him the phone and allow him to. If you in here on some now, look, if Tommy is actually a 4 year old child and it's his birthday, wonderful for him. Happy birthday, all the rest of that. If you're coming in here just to troll and clown, the mods have a very low tolerance for that sort of thing up in here. So he can't say no more than you let him say. So if you get real reckless, then you'll get real invisible. That's all I can tell you. Okay. You said she's gonna have to change her ways, but she did finally get a job. Oh, okay, awesome, awesome. That's what's up. See, that's awesome. Antoine, did you slide in here? I didn't see you, but hey, welcome. I did not see you yet, so welcome, welcome. But yeah, Miss Valerie, hey lady, welcome. Yeah, I was just really really encouraged because after I had the conversation with him, I got a text from my daughter-in-law. I got a whole bunch of ideas coming in about ways that I could potentially get some income kicked off. And then I was trying to get some things ready, so I had just queued up a couple of my favorite readers that have been really really resonant with me lately. So when I did that, the confirmation and the readings were like, yeah, you probably gonna be moving. There's gonna be some instant income coming, some sudden wealth. I mean, it was just lining up like again, like I said, confirmation after confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. So I really, really enjoyed that. Sarah, you can't let a 4-year-old run your whatever, and he can't say nothing in here. We are in YouTube. He don't have the ability to say nothing on this. I'm not having inviting in a call for a 4-year-old to babble on this live stream, and I can't believe you wasting time even texting in here about how he wants to speak to me. He's 4. Control your child or get invisible, like Brooklyn said. But yeah, and it's awesome that your daughter got a job because I know you were kind of. You did send me another email. Awesome. Sarah, goodbye. Have a good day. I'm giving you the opportunity to leave voluntarily or just stop texting. That's all you got to do is just resist the urge to blab because what you're doing now would be the same thing as if I was attempting to teach a class or speak somewhere and you just speaking out like you got no self control whatsoever. Please don't do that. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad you're here and all, but if you're going to be an active participant, participate with something useful to the group conversation. Grown folks in here are not interested in a 4-year-old that's taking control of your phone. Okay, after the live stream, I'll be happy to do that, CC. Yeah, yep. So, what are we going to talk about, folks, other than toddlers that got this raising their parents? Anybody got a question that they want to ask or or area of conversation we want to roam into today? I got my Bible out here. I can grab the lost book. Well, they all, everything, the bookshelf is right there, so we got it. I gotta put WhatsApp on my tablet. I don't have that much space on there, so I never bothered to put it on there. But times like these, I kind of sort of wish I did, so I could send it directly. But I'm gonna write myself a little note so I don't forget, because I am absent-minded like that. Hey, Mandy Walker, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, you're so very welcome, dear one. You know, I'm just happy that things are chilling for you a little bit because, like you say, she still got to get her stuff together. But when people are already irritated and broke, you know, that makes them a little harder to get along with. So I'm happy that she's excited, gonna be excited about her job. You're hearing the story of inspiration and confirmations. Yeah. I wish I could say more, Brooklyn, but I know for a fact that there's some folks that watch my content from the sidelines. They kind of shadow walk me to the ground, and I know they don't have my best interest at heart. So until it actually unfolds, most of it I'm going to have to kind of keep under wraps. But when it really, really kick off, I promise you, everybody on this tapped into my channel will know about it because I will turn on the cameras and take you with me. Hey, King David, welcome, welcome. Good to have you in here, brother. Yep, yep. Ooh. It's interesting. I was just genuinely randomly, just kind of flipping the pages back and forth. And I had been thinking about the nature of Yahweh. I went back, like I said, I was trying to figure out if I was going to be able to edit the conversation that we had 3 weeks ago about the nature of Yahweh when we were discussing Leviticus and First and Second Kings and all of that. And instead, when I flipped it open, it wound up here in Exodus looking at the plagues that Yahweh sent. So, Trophy, why don't you go somewhere and get some manners? You don't know whether I work out or not. Okay. Number one, I have some very real physical issues that I don't complain about to nobody, but it ain't none of your business either. But they do seriously impede my physical movement, and it has absolutely nothing to do with my weight. They were a result of injuries, a couple of serious falls, and a car accident, and all the rest of that stuff. You should mind your business. That's what you should do. Hey, Winlow. Yeah, trophies. You should know better than to just walk up to random people. And do you attack people in the street about their weight? Do they go and attack you about your hair loss or your the way you look? You probably look funny as a darn hamster in a cage somewhere, right? Y'all, this is I am going to get around to doing it because honestly, and I'm going to read y'all something. We're not doing tarot tonight, but this is something that I came across the other day in a reading. And there is a card here. Let me see if I can find it because it spoke to me. And the reason it really spoke to me because I woke up the following morning with a message on my mind with it. It was card 21 out of this deck, and we're gonna get to the other conversation later. But you said be aware when you have to go, mind your business. Yeah, I don't need you to advise me, trophies. You've never been on my channel. You don't know me from a can of paint. For all you know, I might could have used to been 1,000 pounds and have lost down to this point. Everybody that you see ain't lazy this fat. Everybody that you see isn't unaware this fat. I've been heavy my entire life and I have struggled with my weight my entire life. But I have some issues going on. You can't just look at somebody automatically and get your arrogant self and know everything there is to know about their life and why they appear the way they appear. Like it wouldn't be fair for anyone to take a look at you and assume anything about you based on how you appear. Okay? You know what? And if you're going to behave, that's wonderful. But I don't need your subscription bad enough to have you sit around here disrupting the live stream and being rude. Okay? But anyway, let me get back to this because you don't open that door now. It ain't no sorry, just forget. You said you were 400 pounds and had surgery. By your standards, you took the easy way out. Exactly. Nobody knows your walk or how you got there. I have a lot of childhood trauma that led to a lot of emotional eating. And I was very much unaware of it. I asked her, it was so bad. I had such depression as a teenager. So I asked my parents to go to see a therapist, and I was handed a Bible and told to pray it away. I was living in a household. I didn't have physical violence to deal with, but they was literally screaming and yelling to at the top of their lungs from the age of 3 every single day. I lived with that. Do you know what that does to an empath to live under that kind of stress? To live with physical beatings, to live with sexual ancestral trauma? It leads some people to hide behind emotional eating. Those sorts of things. I believe I listen. I you again, you're here on my platform without listening to anything I have to say or knowing what I have to say. I believe the Bible is a semi-reliable source of information only because it is uh it does contain some older historical documents, but I don't believe that the Bible is entirely accurate. I know for a fact that the Bible has been manipulated, truncated, abbreviated, redacted, misconstrued in order to paint a controlling narrative to keep people blind and stuck. That is 90% of my spiritual platform is trying to help people open their eyes and get unstuck. Christianity is a lie. People don't understand. Christians get into Christianity because they claim they love Jesus Christ. Christianity has nothing to do with Jesus Christ other than the fact that they killed him and then made him a mascot. I never told you I was Christian. That's your assumption. There you go again. When you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and me. I didn't tell you I was Christian. I was raised in a Christian household. I am not Christian anymore. Neither am I Jewish or Muslim. That part. I'm an awakened individual. Okay. And I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to balance my spiritual awakening and healing my trauma and get my diet together on your timeline. But I am working on my health and weight because I do have something to do. It's just taking me a little bit longer. Oh well, because the people who genuinely know me and love me don't really give a damn about my weight because they understand that what comes out of here and out of here is way more important than what it appears to the eyes. No, I'm not preaching, but you have to stick around. That's what I'm saying. I go into live streams of all types of niches all the time. Because I'm genuinely interested in what other people are doing and saying. Even if I don't agree with what they're doing and saying, I listen quietly. And if I find out that their agenda does not mesh with my understanding, I scroll. Just this. That's all you got to do right there. What I don't do is show up where they're doing their thing because that's literally like kicking somebody's door in and then turning around and just it's literally like a home invasion because content creators take their own time, their own resources to put forth whatever platform they're doing. I don't care if they're preaching, teaching, or picking boogers. Whatever they're doing, they're spending their time to do that. And somebody out there in media land wants to see whatever they're doing. So I've got enough intelligence about myself to not go busting up in a content creator's house and just start trolling. But I do understand that there's a lot of people that really don't have nothing to do with their life and they're of such low intelligence that they think it's cool to rudely jump into live streams just because those people are quote unquote strangers and just because they can't immediately reach through the phone and slap the crap out of them, then they think it's okay for them to turn up and do that. But yeah, you said this morning that you're here. Yeah, even you're right. And the only reason I'm still talking to trophies is for the same reason. And I'm not going to call any names because again, it's all love, and I ain't trying to embarrass nobody. But I've had a couple of three different trolls that came up in my live stream over the past few weeks. That after I took some time to actually address them and talk to them, they apologized and became subscribers and actually understood after a while. It was like, oh crap, she knows what she's talking about. Now, you're Muslim. You're probably not going to initially like what I got to say, but I'm no more anti Muslim than I am anti Christian or anti Jew because Muslims and Jews and Christians ultimately all worship the same deity, the one that Yeshua said is Satan the devil. And we show that from the scriptures. So I don't have to get into all of the different permutations and the changes that man made to the Talmud and the Quran. I was raised reading the Bible, and between the Lost Book of Enki, the Bible, and the Emerald Tablets, I can show you what I'm talking about. I don't have to go and dabble in all of them to understand that. But yeah, you are here for a reason, trophies. I don't need you to send me no work. I don't need you to send me no work. I'm teaching what Yeshua told me to preach. It's not a damn doctrine. I'm teaching what Yeshua was teaching, not what the church teaches. And Allah, if you travel back through history, and every Muslim is misled. Again, like I said, all three of those religions have been misled. They do not understand. But at the beginning of the time, if you travel back through time and trace the deities back, Jehovah is the same being that was called Yahweh. Yahweh absorbed El and Baal. At one point, Baal was worshipped in the temple of Yahweh alongside his wife Asherah. But over time in the pantheons, they all got mashed up. El and Baal are the same energy as Yahweh. If you continue going even further back, you'll find out that that same entity, Yahweh, was also Beelzebub, Dionysus, Yao, Aeonus, Bacchus, He was Zeus in the Greek pantheon, Odin in the Nordic pantheon, but his very first name when he got here on this planet was Enlil from Nibiru. Okay? You say you mod a lot? You don't have to block him, but Brooklyn, I'm happy. If you're going to be able to be around for a while, I'll make you a mod. CC, I'm going to make you one too, if that's all right. Um, But I like to let them go ahead and let them stay because that's how I got shadow banned. I didn't know any better, and I was blocking a whole lot of people initially that came in real rude. So now instead of my live streams getting 10,000 views and I'm getting 100, 200 viewers per live stream, now I get three or 400 views and one or two live stream. One or two subs per live stream. So yeah, we can go real slow about blocking them because honestly, all he's doing is giving me an opportunity to teach a lesson. I was here to freestyle, so we can go wherever they want to go, and I'm hoping he's still sticking around to listen. But yeah, and honestly, I let me might make myself a note. The video that I need to go and look at is kind of a resource point. I want to say I can't even remember the group that did it. Oh, I'm drawing a blank while I'm trying to think of it here, but it was about a 2.5 hour documentary that traced Yahweh all the way back through all the different ages and eras and pantheons, all the way back. And here's the thing, I was looking for it today. AI will not give you the whole truth. They're already starting to block the truth, and I found that out when I was trying to make some correlations. There is such a correlation in the Egyptian pantheon between Osiris and the facts of Yeshua that it's kind of obvious that that energy or entity kind of overlaps a bit. And the same thing with Yahweh, Allah, and Set. Set was a storm god. Yahweh was a storm god when the Jews first got up with him. And he tells people he's El Elyon the destroyer. But there's somewhere in the Mycenaean age, I think, that he kind of there were several times that he kind of in and out and absorbed other people's characteristics because he had such a bad reputation. Number one, he had been exiled because he treated his people so horribly. The other Elohim literally exiled him and Marduk. And in order to get himself in a land and a people, he basically came in under the radar like a wolf wearing sheep's clothing and hid under his brother's identity for a couple of times throughout that timeline. But if you track it all the way back, the very first civilization, the oldest one that we have any record of anywhere on this planet, is the Anunnaki civilization back there with Eridu and and Bat Tabera and all of them. That was first. And then we had the Sumerian Empire and then the Babylonian Empire. But all the very first one was the Anunnaki Empire. And when he came here from Nibiru, according to the Anunnaki texts, his name was Enlil, his brother's name was Enki, and his title, Enlil's title was Lord of the Command. His second title was Satan of the Eden. Hey, Antoine, there you go. Oh, Lord, I need a new different. I got two tripods, and both of them get on my nerves. Yeah, Brooklyn AI really don't get it. But again, AI is going based on the lies that politics and religion have put forth. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, none of those religions go back further than 2,500 years, period. None of them. Islam is the newest kid on the block. It came around in 600 AD. Christianity came around in 295 or 325 AD. And Judaism was established 500 BC, and yet they've convinced the entire world that everything that came before that was just mythology. Just don't even worry about that. Ignore it. It doesn't mean anything. How stupid can you be? And I'm calling it out like it is. That's stupid for somebody to automatically assume that this planet has rocked out for 300 or 400,000 years, and the only truth we got is the stuff that popped up in the last 2,000 years. No, no, I can think for further than that. That's the level of ignorance I just refuse to embrace. I propose to you though, trophies. If Allah is the true God, why is there no peace on this planet? It's over 1 billion Muslims on this planet. Y'all can't get along amongst yourselves, much less with the rest of the world. If he's the true God, Yeshua said God is love. And the Jews and the Muslims been fighting ever since they got established. There's no peace amongst the Jews or the Muslims or the Christians. They are all Abrahamic religions, and the planet has known no peace since they've been around. Yahweh has always been a militaristic, very, very violent, very, very bloodthirsty God. And people that worship him ain't the sharpest tools in the shed. You read the holy books where he's violent and advocates violence. Why would you give your allegiance to a violent storm god? No, Allah is not the God of Jesus. That's what you don't understand, trophies. You've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. Let me read you a little something, something. Hold on, I got to catch up with this. Hey, God Loves Ministry, how are you? Welcome in. Say something, don't want you to learn. And I wish trophies would be quiet because he don't know. King David and God Loves Ministry both came in here with the idea initially they're gonna get me right, and if they listen long enough to understand that I know what I'm talking about. Hey, Skin by Lauren, welcome, welcome. But trophies, here's the part that you don't understand. And I'm gonna go back to it. We talk about it a lot here. And before we do that, I'm going to call this attention because this was about the trolls. This card came out in a reading that I did, and I didn't think anything of it. I pull a lot of cards in my readings, but the following morning, the message of this card came back, and I had to go back and read it because it really, my attitude about trolls is shifting a lot. Now, I do lose a little patience with them because some of them are just downright nasty. I cannot tolerate the ones that's so ignorant that they jump up on racial stuff. Now, the people that attack my appearance, like you, trophies, jumped in here talking about my weight and stuff. That's ignorance. That's just downright stupidity. So I don't. That doesn't bother me because I can lose weight. You can't necessarily gain any more IQ points, and I understand that that comes from a deeply ignorant, wounded place that's just very, very low IQ because anybody with real sense that has a broader worldview understands that 70% of the people in the United States are overweight. That's not from being lazy or greedy necessarily. We've been poisoned. Our greedy, commercialist, capitalist place has had all of us on decades long wrong information of how to eat, the foods that are available to us. And in ignorance, our parents fed us a whole lot of crap that we're paying the price for right now. Now, yes, there are things we can do to tweak that and overcome it, and I'm working on that. But who walks up to a stranger and just start telling them how they should do to handle their weight or their appearance or their anything? That's rude as hell. Rude as hell. Hold on, let me see what's going on here. Hey, Jay Gibson, welcome. You can talk about what's literally a translation. It doesn't matter about surrender and submission to God, trophies. The issue is what's the nature of the God you're submitting to? An intelligent person would not submit themselves to a being that is not worthy of worship. And Yahweh has never been worthy of worship. That is the entire point. Hey, Winlow. Islam was not before Abraham trophies. Go back and look at your history. Islam was established in 600 AD. It is the newest of the religions. Buddhism is the oldest, technically. Buddha came along before even Abraham, but that's still not the oldest religion. Do you not understand? And again, I don't have a Quran here and I don't have a Talmud, but I do have a Bible here, and I want you to understand something. We're going to go back to Genesis. Oh, I did say I was going to come up with this for the trolls first, though. Card 21. And I'm going to do a video about this because it's something that I really had to stop and think about. I'm sorry if my thoughts are a little bit scattered here, y'all. But the card is called Exposed and Revealed. It's the key words here are healing shame, imposter syndrome, letting go of self condemnation, freedom from past unresolved wounds, focusing on self worth, and the underlying beauty in rejection. When you experience shame, you don't just feel you've done something wrong, you feel you are wrong, fundamentally flawed. Now, that's the main thing that religion does for you. They make everybody feel out the gate that they're sinful and dirty and worthless. That's the reason why they all bow and scrape to Allah, Yahweh, Jehovah in the first place, because they feel like they're wrong, but you're not. Know that life loves you and the universe doesn't make junk, only magic. However, many social interactions, especially online, are steeped in distorted, unhealthy ways of expressing pain by shaming. Here is the way out of this. See shame as the heart wrenching cry for help that it is. Consider whether you could have been triggered in the outer world by unresolved issues that matched all your inner pain points. If someone is shaming you, perhaps you have triggered them. How miserable they must be to expend their energy on such toxicity. They are drinking poison, hoping you will get sick. You cannot love someone out of their shame. You can only show compassion for both them and yourself. Set a healthy boundary and refuse to fan the flames. Look upon shame as an opportunity for growth, evolution, healing, and freedom. With this in mind, can you let go of your attachment to control? Admit this emotion isn't something you have power over and surrender to a higher power. There is a sacred quality to the vulnerability inherent in admitting you can't do this alone. When you allow yourself to be laid open in this way, gain a beautiful new perspective. Then the healed shame has the infinite power of the divine to set you free. So these people are literally, like I said, they sipping the poison and trying to hurt somebody else, but they're sipping the poison expecting somebody else to get sick. Because you genuinely hurt yourself more than you do anybody else when you come in with that nonsense. Moses was not a Muslim trophies. We're gonna go again. You have no idea what you're talking about. They made a golden calf. That means that they were worshiping Moloch, most likely, or perhaps Marduk. The Jews, I mean, yeah, the nation of Israel. Moses was raised in the house of the Pharaoh. He was a Jew by birth. He was raised in the house of the Pharaoh. He got mad in a fit of anger because one of the Pharaoh's guards was mistreating one of the Jewish slaves, and he unalived one of Pharaoh's guards and went out into the desert on the run, afraid for his life. Yahweh came across him out there in the desert and told him, I want you to go back in there and I'm going to help you get the nation of Israel free if they will serve me. That's how they started worshiping Yahweh again, because they had left off. Yahweh showed his butt so bad till the nation of Israel had stopped worshiping Yahweh. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago as well when I was talking about the nature of Yahweh in the book of Obadiah, or Amos rather, and it spills over into Obadiah. But it talks about how the nation of Israel had stopped worshiping them in first and second Kings. They had gone back to worshiping Asherah because Yahweh never kept his promises to them. He was violent, he was bloodthirsty, and he did not keep his promises to them, and they stopped worshiping him. Okay, Jehovah, Yahweh, were known as gods because it's the same damn person. And I'm saying person because it's not a deity. You looking for an invisible, all powerful sky daddy. If you go back and read the Anunnaki text, primarily the Lost Book of Enki, I have it on the channel if you want to listen to me read it, or there's other people on YouTube, you can listen to them read it. But if you read that book, it will tell you that long before Muslim, Jews, Christians, any of that happened, they came here from Nibiru. Those were beings, extraterrestrial beings. And they modified a hominid that they found here and put their DNA, they mixed their DNA with the hominid's DNA that they found here, and they created Homo sapiens sapiens, us. Lord Enki was the one who gave us his DNA. Lord Enki was the geneticist on the project that did it. His sister Ninma, Isis, was the one who carried the Adamu in her womb, and Enki's wife, Damkina, carried Eve in her womb. Lord Enlil, Yahweh, Jehovah, had absolutely nothing to do with the creation of mankind, except he insisted that we have a worship gene put in us to make us worship them, and that we were never to be told that they're not gods, and we could never see their faces. If we were to see their faces, we were supposed to be instantly executed. But it wasn't that their glory is so great we can't physically look at them. He just didn't want the truth to be known. So if we messed around and saw them, we were supposed to be unalived and an example made of us to scare everybody else into believing that the glory of the Lord is what actually caused our deaths. You got to stop believing these fairy tales, Trophy. Hold on. The Quran is not an updated message, honey. Anything that's still leading you back to that dragon is a lie. It's another iteration of Yahweh worship. Yahweh done been remixed and spilled out into humanity so many times. And honestly, the one of the main reasons you can tell it's not the truth is because it takes violence to install it amongst the people. Islam was installed with violence. Christianity was installed with violence. Judaism was installed with violence. Yeshua said God is love. Yeshua said, my judgments are light and my Father judges not. He also said, let's go here, get back over here to John. In the Gospel of John, Yeshua spent 3 years trying to talk to the knuckleheaded Jews, and they didn't get it either. That's why I'm still talking, because he said he would not leave us as orphans, that he would send Holy Spirit as a helper to us, and in the last days that he would come, as far as he would have mouthpieces on this planet to help. That's the reason why I endure people like you and still continue to teach. But in John chapter 8, verse 42, Yeshua said to them, if the Elohim were your father, you would love me. For I came from the Elohim and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Yeshua was not pointing nobody to serve Yahweh. And the Christians turned around and got it even worse because the Jews wanted Yeshua dead so bad, but they didn't want to do it themselves, so they delivered him up to the Romans. And Pontius Pilate interrogated him at length, and he said, I can find no fault with this man. Why don't I release him to you as our custom? And they said no, they would rather have either the murderer or the thief released to them. They wanted him gone. And Emperor Tiberius was the one who actually supposedly put Yeshua to death. And then 300 years later, Emperor Constantine wanted to unify his empire. And there was a whole bunch of different religious factions around at the time. So he called the First Council of Nicaea, and they literally wrote Christianity. They took some ancient texts, put them together in the way that would satisfy their narrative, and brought in pagan traditions from all those different religions in the kingdom, and remixed the names for them. The Saturnalia became the birth of Yeshua's birthday. Lupercalia became Valentine's Day. The festival of Diana of Astara and Inanna became the story of the resurrection. Yeshua's death story was basically a retelling of Osiris's story. They keep telling all of those stories over and over again, and they told them so many times for so long till they got people actually believing that that stuff is actually real the way it went down. Now, I do firmly believe Yeshua or Isa ben Yosef or Isa ben Nazariah was actually a real human being, but he wasn't pointing nobody to worship Yahweh. He exactly the opposite. That's why they killed him, is because he was telling them you're worshiping the wrong Elohim. Hey Raquel Hughes, welcome. If you can believe whatever you want, trophies, just believe it quietly, because we don't believe that here. We actually believe in getting knowledge and being enlightened here. So you think that Allah is gonna bring you back to life and judge you? Go right ahead. Do your own, like he said, like Brooklyn said, do your own research. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I'm not making nothing up. I'm putting forth information that has been being discussed for over 100 years. Thankfully, because we now live in the information age, it's available to common people via the internet. But this is information that is not new. It's just the church and the masjid and the synagogues have kept it out of people's common knowledge and made people afraid to look at these other documents that could do that, because they want to keep taking people's money and keeping them in fear and control. But yeah, if you do your research, you will find out. I'm not here to talk to you about me. I'm not nobody, and this ain't no dating site, trophies. What do I need to talk to y'all about me for? So some haters can go out there and be doing the oogly boogly trying to do spell work on me? For what? I'm completely immaterial. I'm a mouthpiece for Yeshua and Lord Inky. My personal stuff I got going on now, I share some personal details of my life as points of relatability through when I'm reading tarot and things like that, or to make a point, I may tell a personal story. But overall, my personal story is only this important in the scheme of what I do on this channel. Yeshua put it in my mind and heart to continue his ministry, pick it up where he left off, because they didn't believe him either. And he was way more eloquent at it than I am, but I still got to try, because contrary to popular belief, I believe there is a sense of urgency here because of what's laid out at the end of that book in Revelation. They may not have all the details, they may not be giving it to us in the way, the actual truth of it all. But after reading the Anunnaki text, I believe there is a sense of urgency here, because there is another cataclysm coming. And not only is there a physical cataclysm coming, what they put in the end of Revelation describes the end of the Anunnaki Wars. The Anunnaki Wars have been playing out for over 400,000 years on this planet. And basically, Yahweh done showed his ass for so long through so many pantheons throughout time, after being exiled and after being bound and everything else. Every time they let him out, he show his ass again. According to the end of Revelation, he's going to be destroyed by his own people, the other Elohim that y'all don't want to give no acknowledgement that are here. It does say that they're coming back and they're going to deal with it. Revelation, and again, you're Muslim, so you don't know about the end of the Christian scriptures. But here's the thing: Christianity. Oh, like I said, his other name being Satan, the devil, so Luciferianism and all of that. A lot of this planet operates on Luciferian law, and one of the tenets of Luciferian law is they have to tell you the truth, even if they hide it in plain sight. It is embedded here for discerning minds to be able to find out. So, excuse me, when I started reading and picking all of that stuff apart and connecting the dots, it made a lot of sense to me because they're telling you that they are sick to death of him misleading humanity, him and his minions or demons, whatever you want to call them, jinn, all the rest of that that's on Team Yahweh. They have misled humanity for thousands of years, and that is going to come to a stop. His father, Anu, gave him dominion of earth, and he has absolutely tore this place up and turned it into a ghetto fabulous hot mess. And now the other Elohim, the older brother, the more peaceful, compassionate brother, the one who is our actual progenitor, is going to come in and clean up Yahweh's mess at the end of this, at the grand showdown. But it does tell us that Yeshua, Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, all the rest of them, the four horsemen, and Samo is going to ride through there, and they are going to kick butt and take names. Now you can believe it or not if you want to. Whether you believe it or not is completely, you're not open-minded, trophies. You're not open-minded at all. But that's okay, because I'm teaching and it's speaking to you. There are other people that are hearing this as well, and people that may hear it in the replay. So hopefully it will help open their minds, if not yours. So that's your business. But no, you're not open minded because you're still telling me how I need to go and get with Islam. And anybody that's still rocking on trying to bind themselves to Islam, their minds are not open. They're hoodwinked and bamboozled. You say you do research on the speaking spell? Oh my God, Paul. Yeah, you did just tell your age, but I'm right there with you, brother. Speaking spell. I actually used to love playing with the little speaking spell. My nephews had one. Yeah, like I said, Lauren, you're absolutely correct. None of this information is new. It was hidden. A lot of it was buried. People don't understand this stuff has come out when it was supposed to come out. The Bible, like I said, all of these religions are like 2,500 years old. That's not a lot of time in the larger scheme of things if you think about how old the planet is. But Buddha came and tried to tell people, and in that corner of the world, they had it right for a while. But unfortunately, between the Jews and the Christians, they did that whole holy wars thing, and they went around the world unaliving people to force them into Christianity. Christianity was established on the end of a spear, in case y'all didn't know. It took them about 100 years and 80 million people slain to establish Christianity on this planet, but they did it. It was the huge, biggest land grab ever known to this planet. They did it in the name of the church, but they was claiming land for Rome, and they unalived 80 million people to make them accept that Yahweh Jehovah mess. And the planet has had no peace ever since. But it was kind of dark for a while, and again, the scriptures say there was 1,000 year period where Satan would be bound. And did we not go through what they call the dark ages, where it was pretty quiet on the planet? There wasn't a lot going on industrial wise, wasn't much going on philosophically, through the arts. the humanities. There wasn't much going on religiously. It was just a very quiet time for about 1,000 years, and then the Renaissance period popped up, and art, religion, philosophy, all of that kind of woof popped back into place altogether. But that was the point at when the religious agenda really kicked back up to a fever pitch about 500 years ago when they started printing this Bible. Before then, up until 500 years ago, nobody on this planet had this book except the church hierarchy, the priests and the archbishops and the pope. Those are the only people that could have this book. If you got caught with any of these texts before then, you would have been unalived, maybe on the spot, but certainly after a very short trial, because it was illegal for you to have this information. It wasn't until the Gutenberg Bible was passed. And even then, think about it, back then, I don't remember how many Bibles were initially printed in that first run of the Gutenberg, but it couldn't have been more than 5 or 10 of them at first, and then maybe a couple of hundred. If you got a Gutenberg Bible now, there are museums that want to talk to you, and you're going to get several $1 million for them. So when you think about how many people were on the earth at that time, 500 years ago, when the first Bible was done, and even then, only about 10% of the planet could read or write any language at that time. Let's not be so presumptuous that we assume that the whole world spoke English back then, because they most certainly did not. You know, more people spoke Latin and Greek back then than anything else. And I think the Vulgate was done in Latin, and the Gutenberg was done in Old English. So that narrowed way, very few people anywhere on this planet had the opportunity to even read this. So you can't really blame or think that what we're talking about now, that's come out in the last 150 years, is so out of whack or so far behind the times. But it is time for people to stop poo-pooing it, because they still clinging on to this, especially when we have so much information coming out to show the ways this has been manipulated. It was done with an agenda. I'm not saying there isn't any good information in it, but this is the Yahweh story. And every religion on the planet, up until Christianity came along and forced everybody to believe the lies that they told, all the other religions on the planet up to that point knew what a piece of crap Yahweh was. He's only such a hot, all amazing sky daddy now because they literally pushed all of the other information out of the way underground, made it illegal for people to have it, painted it as mythology and everything else, so that they could sell the Abrahamic religions to the rest of the world: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Trophies, nobody. Did you create yourself? No. And I didn't create myself either, but I'm not going to give an evil deity, a violent being, credit for it that didn't even have the scientific know-how to create us. His brother is the one that created us. And even his brother acknowledges they were not the creators of heaven and earth. They came to a planet that had already been terraformed and had rough bioforming done, and they give credit to a being they call the creator of all. But that is not Yahweh, it is not El, it is not Jehovah, it is not even Lord Enki. Enki was the one that had enough humility and modesty to tell the truth. Yahweh, El, Allah, Jehovah is the one that runs around popping his collar, claiming to be the creator of heaven and earth. Like Marduk tried to claim that he destroyed Tiamat. Tiamat had been destroyed long before Marduk was ever thought about, but because he was on that ego trip of self aggrandizement, the Babylonian epics give Marduk credit for having created and destroyed Tiamat. But Tiamat was supposed to have been his mother. in the Babylonian epic. So he bragged about killing his mama and claimed he created the earth because Marduk claimed he created the earth too. So now, which one are you going to believe? Allah, Marduk, Yahweh, which one? Because all three of them told that lie that they created the earth. His brother Enki is the only one that was saying, no, we didn't create the earth, player. It was already here. We came here and modified. We dared to play God by modifying a creature that we found here because we needed help to dig this gold to save our planet. And I know what we did was ethically probably not the right thing to do. And I know one of these days we probably gonna have to answer to real God for it. So let me set the record straight and tell you what I did. That's the Lost Book of Inky. You might want to go read it. It's a real eye opener, trophies. Hey, Johnny Blade 78. You know what? You keep putting 78 on. You come in here in three different names now with 78 on the end of it, and you ain't about nothing anytime that you do. No, I don't worship the devil. I'm trying to help people learn how to not worship the devil, Johnny Blade. If you're Christian, Muslim, or Jew, you are worshiping the devil. That's why I'm here talking to people to let them know they have been lied to, they have been hoodwinked and bamboozled, they have been tricked in the ultimate, most hypocritical crime against humanity that has ever been perpetrated on this planet, even worse than when Marduk unleashed the evil wind and destroyed the Sumerian empire or the city of Sumer. Worse than that, because this is going on even longer than that. They literally, Yahweh has tricked the whole world into worshiping the devil. The Bible tells you that. It says, number one, that he disguises himself as an angel of light. It says the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. And that one of his greatest tools is to convince people he don't exist. And right on time, here they come with it. Yeshua told the Jews that they was worshiping the devil and they killed him for it. And then they remixed Yahweh into Jehovah, and then they pushed it out to the rest of the world by lacing Yeshua as a mascot in the middle of that lie, and got the whole world worshiping the devil, including you, Johnny Blade 78. Hey, Environment, welcome. And truthfully, to be absolutely correct, CC, I don't worship anyone. Your Lord Inky is my progenitor. He's a mentor. He's a counselor. I love him so, so very dearly. Yeshua is my guide. All the rest of that, but I don't worship any of them because Lord Inky let me know I have the ability and the responsibility, if I'm truly of intelligence, to learn the truth and turn my worship gene off. Yeshua is a righteous prophet, but you won't listen to him. I'm telling you what he said, and you still won't listen to him. You're saying he's a righteous prophet, and he came here and told humanity that they have been tricked and hoodwinked and lied to, and you still won't listen to him. That's exactly why I'm here on here 2 or 3 times a week, continuing to talk about the same thing over and over and over again, because a whole lot of people will say that Yeshua is a righteous prophet, but they won't listen to his message. Even though I'm reading directly from his words, they still don't want to hear his message. Any thoughts on the tribe of Benjamin? Well, in the scripture, Benjamin was the one that they sold into slavery. Remember, actually, they tried to drop him in a well. They tried to kill Benjamin, and then because he was the baby boy, I think, and he wound up wasn't he wound up in the Pharaoh's house or something, and he was the one that had to come back and save them after the flood. I mean, when the famine hit the land, and he did it. But yeah, they tried to kill him. Now, as far as how that translates today, I don't follow a lot of that stuff today because I honestly don't think it's relevant. Everybody want to claim to be something, you know. I think the Rastafarians claim they're the tribe of Judah, and there's somebody, all of that. So the tribes have been so convoluted and scattered everywhere till it's really kind of impossible to know. I believe, because if you think about it, even Yeshua, he was an Edomite. He would have been from like Esau's folks. Hold on, I'm trying to catch up. I'm so far behind. Yeah, Zeus is Enlil, not Yeshua. Exactly, environment. The vast majority of people could not read 600 years ago. Yep, the Vulgate was Latin, and I think the Vulgate was Latin. The Septuagint was Greek, and like I said, the one that mm, it didn't just jumped out of my head, but it was done in Old English. But all of them were very hard to read, and it was only a few copies of each done then. For sure, Paul Snowcloud, when they have them drinking the blood and eating the flesh and all that, high black magic, sorcery, witches, binding spells, witchcraft. Hey, Adam. Oh, good night, Antoine. If you, I was about to say, you could get rather than leave. If you want to stick around, we can make him. You can just quiet him. You can time him out, and then you don't have to hear him no more. And I can stop talking to him. Hey, Miss Michelle. I was just trying to hopefully teach him something, but you're right. He don't want to hear, so we didn't talk to him long enough. Hey, Winlow. Hey, Dylan McQuaid. I don't know. Anyway. Hey, ST. What's up from Greece to you too? I haven't read the book of Joseph Raquel, but we'll get to it eventually, I'm sure. Right? Yeah, we can be done with trophies because even when they come back, if they come back, Antoine, I hope you're still here because he's been timed out. We don't have to deal with him no more. Like I said, I was just hoping to. If I had caught up in the notes and realized you were leaving because of him, I would have told you just go and time him out. Okay, yeah, you can stay, please. The Douay rings, yeah. You know what really amazes me though? They give us the example, and we've talked about it before. Even if we're standing in a room, if 20 of us were standing in a room right now, and the person at the beginning of the line whispered something in my ear, and I whispered something in your ear, and whispered whatever, no matter how diligently you try to take it seriously and say that you're going to convey the message exactly as you received it within no more than 20 people, that message will deviate. So when these people look at all, everybody swear up and down that the Bible is the infallible word of God. Look how many translations they got. You know it's been manipulated, and you know it can't be 100% right. Because back then they were literally making copies by hand before they got around to the one 500 years ago. the mystics were in the caves copying stuff. And depending on who had the money and who was paying who to copy it, there were some things, some liberties that were taken with these texts. So nobody should. We talked about it on the last live stream. All you got to do to understand what I'm talking about is read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. There is no way that three separate men would be able to tell the same account of the Last Supper spread out between 60 years of history, because one of them was done in 60 AD and they range all the way from 60 AD to I think like 70 or 80 AD up to 110 AD. First of all, if they actually walked with Jesus, Yeshua, why would they wait 60 to 100 years later to write it down? And even if they did, for whatever reason, decide to wait 60 years to write it down, what's the likelihood that all three men are going to be able to tell that story exactly the same way, word for word? Let me take a look here, because I know people think I'm crazy. I noticed that. I noticed all kind of little weird stuff. But let me see. I'm gonna find both of the accounts and I'm gonna let you see what I'm talking about. Hold on. And here's another thing that I just bumped into that I didn't even realize, to show you about how they mess with the timelines and stuff to paint a narrative. The apocalypse, the end of the book of the Bible is Revelation. It's the apocalypse of John. John was Yeshua's cousin. How about, I was looking for the story of the Last Supper in here, and I had forgotten about this. John was executed at the time of Herod. His For her birthday, let me see. It said, when Herod's birthday came, the daughter of Herodias danced before the company and pleased Herod, so that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me the head of John the Baptist on a platter." And the king was sorry because of his oaths and the guests he commanded it to be given. He sent and had John beheaded in the prison, and his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. And his disciples came and took the body and buried it, and they went and told Yeshua. Now, the two things become evident when you read this. Number one, obviously Yahweh is not protecting people. So, and if Yeshua was his main prophet, and John was his brother, so much so that back in the beginning of Luke or Matthew, it was told the angel Gabriel came to Zechariah and Elizabeth and foretold of John's birth, that he was a special being that was here to pave the way for Yeshua. Why would Yahweh allow that faithful servant to be beheaded if he was on Team Yahweh? If John and Yeshua were on Team Yahweh, why would Yahweh allow his faithful servants to be beheaded? And again, I wasn't even looking for this scripture, but it popped to my mind, so I had to talk about it. And then the other thing, so not only do we see that, but it lets you know the timeline, the way they put the books together in the Bible is way off. Because if John was beheaded way back here in Matthew while Jesus was still very much alive, it does say in Revelation that he was given the vision, I think, when he was in prison, because John was in prison before Herod did that. But it says, let me see, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave to him to show his servants, or which the Elohim gave him, the things must soon take place. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, who bore witness to the word of of the Elohim and the testimony of Yeshua, even all that he saw. So he probably wrote Revelation while he was being held, like very shortly before his execution. Well, and that's my point, though, Paul. I'm saying people really have to stop and think. That other person who was timed out earlier was talking about how Yeshua was a prophet of God. Yes, but which God? Not Yahweh. Because John and Yeshua was on the same team. If if Yahweh allowed John to be beheaded and then turned around and allowed Jesus to be executed, that goes to show you he was not. It wasn't done. Like I said, they tell that story that Yeshua had to be unalive to pay for our sins and all the rest of that. Why was John executed? For a birthday gift for a pagan princess? But let me get over here. Hold on. And I didn't even realize John was beheaded way before they got to the Last Supper. John was beheaded before he fed the 5,000 and before he walked on water, according to Matthew. Now, again, Matthew, Mark, and Luke were most not likely not written by Matthew, Mark, or Luke, but I'm just saying this is what they put in this book. Hold on. Now, this is a scripture. This is interesting because it says here that he was speaking, the disciples understood that he was speaking to them of John the Baptist. And this is at the Transfiguration, where let me see, it says, after 6 days, Yeshua took with him Peter and James. This was 6 days after he was supposedly had been executed, and he then appeared to them, and he's then, he's been resurrected and all of that good stuff. Hold on. Or actually, the Transfiguration might have been before then. What'd you say, Robin? Hold on. Oh, okay. You talking about. Okay, I'm just trying to check the notes and catch up what was going on over there. But bear with me a second. I'm trying to get over here to. Okay, so in Matthew, the institution of the Lord's Supper is here. Let me find it in Mark, because I want to read these side by side. Hold on, let me get something to mark these places with. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Hmm. I'm checking one more thing, and then we're gonna get on this part. Yeah, okay. You said, and the people are different versions, but and that's my point. There, you said there's probably a version alive today, but the point that I was getting at, it's almost impossible to do that even in person in real time to get it exactly the same. But yet, let's look over here in Matthew chapter 26, starting at verse 17. It says, "Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yeshua saying, 'Where will you have us prepared for you to eat the Passover?' He said, 'Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.' And the disciples did just as Yeshua had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at the table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, 'Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me.' And they were very sorrowful and began to say to him one after the other, 'Is it I?' He said, 'He who has dipped his hand in the dish will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of them, but woe to that man whom the Son of Man is betrayed by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born.' Judas, who would betray him, answered, 'Is it I, Rabbi?' He said to him, 'You have said so.' Now, as they were eating, Yeshua took bread, and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to the disciples, saying, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, 'Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it with you in my Father's kingdom.'" Now, interesting. You said, why they have Coke and come out with new? Yeah, right. That part. So now that's the first time we see it. In Mark, it says, on the first day of unleavened bread, where they will sacrifice the Passover lamb, his disciples, this is Mark 13, or Mark 14, excuse me, starting at verse 12. On the first day of unleavened bread, when they sacrificed the Passover lamb, his disciples said to him, 'Where will you have us go and prepare for you to eat the Passover?' And he sent two of his disciples and said to them, 'Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. And wherever he enters, say to the master of the house, the teacher says, where is my guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room furnished and ready. There prepare for us.' And the disciples set out and went to the city and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. And when it was evening, he came with the 12, and they were reclining at the table, saying, 'Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me.' They began to be sorrowful and to say to him one after another, 'Is it I?' He said to them, 'It is one of the 12, it is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread into the dish with me. For the Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born.'" So now, but another, this is slightly different, but it still sticks amazingly close to this, considering these two books were written like 50 years apart. But one of the things that I do notice, even if Yeshua didn't actually say this, he does say, go into the city, because this was at the first day of unleavened bread. They were sacrificing the Passover lamb. He said, go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. The man with the pitcher of water is Aquarius. We are in the age of Aquarius, and Lord Enki is the quintessential Aquarius. But he also says that he'll show you a large upper room furnished and ready. There, prepare for us. The Millerites thought that Yeshua was going to be, they call it the investigative judgment, because he was supposed to have been in the upper room in 1844. And again, we didn't see him physically, but we definitely saw, there were, like people say, there were signs. You know what I mean? There have been signs ever since. So I'm loving that part, but let's continue. As they were eating, he took bread, and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to them and said, take, this is my body. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said to them, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God. Now, again, very similar wording, very similar wording. Let's continue. And it's interesting because Luke goes a little further. It says in chapter 22 of Luke, now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, and called Judas, called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray to them. And so now they but again, they're making you believe Satan is somebody different than Yahweh. But you also remember almost all of those beings, because they are of a different species, they are very much more advanced than us. They do have powers of telepathy. Yahweh went into Ahab, King Ahab. We talked about that in the end of Second Kings. The prophet that was supposed to be talking to Ahab, Yahweh wanted to push Ahab into battle to cause him to be killed. So he pushed lies into the prophet's thoughts to force him to lie to the king and set that king up to be slain in battle, and it worked. But it does say right here, Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Yeshua sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat it. Then they said to him, where will you have us prepare it? He said to them, behold, when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house that he enters, and tell the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room, that I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room furnished. Prepare it there. And they went and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. And then, let me see. And when the hour came, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again. I will not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he said, take this and divide it among yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And likewise the cup after they had eaten, saying, cup is poured out for you. This is the new covenant in my blood. But behold, the hand of him who betrays me is with me on the table. For the Son of Man goes as it has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed. And they began to question one another. And then, of course, it turned out to be Judas. Now, a couple things here. Again, this isn't verbatim. There was something else earlier that I was reading. It goes back to the prophecy. Couple of words difference, but the thought is exact. of everything that Yeshua did in 3 whole years, this is what they had to come up with. Oh, thank you, Cece. Um, for 3 whole years of being around Yeshua, they all chose to tell this story, and they all chose it in amazingly, very, very close to word for word of all the events that they could come up with. However, one thing that Christians also fail to realize in all three of those accounts, Yeshua was keeping the Passover because he was a Jew. Paul is the one that came along and told Christians, don't worry about it. You don't have to keep the Passover no more, even though the 10 Commandments were quite literally nailed to the tree that they hung him on. He could not absolve them. He could free them, perhaps in theory, from the rest of the Mosaic law, but he could not. The 10 Commandments were literally written by the hand of Yahweh himself. Paul ain't had the authority to remove that requirement from the Christians or nobody else. Anybody that called themselves serving Yahweh Jehovah had to keep Yahweh Jehovah's rules. Even Yeshua, as bad as he did not want to worship Yahweh as a Jew, he had them keep the Passover because Yahweh had told the Jews, you were to keep the Passover forever. If it wasn't for me, you'd still be enslaved in Egypt. You will keep the Passover forever. And the last thing that Yeshua did before they put him to death was keep the Passover. So who in the hell do Paul think he is to have Christians believing they don't need to keep it no more? If you call yourself going to be a spiritual Israelite, which is what a Christian is supposed to be, because they remixed Yahweh into Jehovah, but he's known by both names in this Bible, and Christians claim they're still worshiping him, but they're not doing the main thing he told them that they needed to do. But when we move on to John, and again, John is the one who was a blood relative of Yeshua. He is the one who baptized Yeshua when he first got back into Jerusalem and began his ministry. He writes in here about this account. Let's go to John 13 because his account is a little different than Matthew, Mark's, and Luke's. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Yeshua knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, when the devil had already put it in the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. So he's not denying that Yahweh pushed this thought into him. Yahweh orchestrated the death of Yeshua. Yeshua knew it was coming, but Yahweh pushed that thought into Judas's mind. That's why in the Gospel of Judas, Yeshua recognizes the fact that Judas actually knows who he really is and who really sent him. He was more spiritually adept than all the rest of the disciples, and yet he played this role anyway. That's why he said it would be better for you. Because I get it. This is a passion play that I have to kind of play out at this point. But you know better, Judas. You know better than anybody. And yet, you still playing along, you know? But like I said, let's see. During supper, when the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Yeshua, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, so the devil and the Father, not the same beings, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from Elohim and was going back to Elohim, rose from the supper. He laid aside his outer garments and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, do you wash my feet? Jesus said to them, or Yeshua said to them, what I am doing you do not understand now, but afterward you will understand. Sadly, they didn't. But, they really didn't get it. But anywho, he tried. He really tried. Peter said to him, you shall never wash my feet. Yeshua answered him, if I do not wash you, you have no share with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head. Yeshua said to him, the one who is bathed does not need to wash except for his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not every one of you. For he knew who was to betray him. That was why he said, not all of you are clean. Now notice, we're getting down to the betrayal, but let me keep going. When he had washed their feet and put on his outer garments and resumed his place, he said to them, do you understand what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do just as I have done to you. Truly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor a messenger greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. I am not speaking I am not speaking of all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but the scripture will be fulfilled. He who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me. I am telling you this now before it takes place, that when it does take place, you may believe that I am he. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever receives the one I send receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me. Mm. Now, we down to the truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me. The disciples looked up at one another, uncertain of whom he spoke. One of the disciples whom Jesus loved was reclining at the table at Jesus' side. So Simon Peter, motioning to him, asked Yeshua of whom he was speaking. So that disciple, leaning back against Yeshua, said, Lord, who is it? Yeshua said, it is he to whom I will give this morsel of bread when I have dipped it. So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. Then after that he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into him. Yeshua said to him, "What are you going to do? What you are going to do quickly." Now, no one at the table knew why he had said this to him. Some thought because Judas had the money bag, Yeshua was telling him, buy what we need for the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. And who is the he? I've been reading, Yvonne. Hey, Yvonne, if you have been listening, you probably looks like you just. I'm glad you enjoyed it, King David. It sounds like you just popped in, Yvonne. Let me see. Hey, Shawanda Sheree. It's several things. There's a lot to unpack in here because this is the portion of the scripture where we get some of the good Christian folk that feel they completely miss the whole point of this chapter. All they get out of this chapter is that we need to wash each other's feet, and it's a lot of churches today that still get caught up on the foot washing thing. But the first and foremost that I wanted to mention, Matthew, Mark, and Luke tell about this Last Supper thing at the Feast of the Unleavened Bread and the keeping of the Passover. But Matthew, Mark, and Luke all include that eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, keep doing this in remembrance of me, all of that good stuff. And yet, the one who actually walked with Yeshua, his blood cousin, does not mention that at all in the account. He mentions they went in for the feast of the Passover, and then he starts talking about the foot washing and how Satan was entering into Judas to make him tell this lie. And Yeshua knew it was going to happen, and he went and told him all he was going to do. But they don't mention nothing about eating of my flesh and drinking of my blood. That is a satanic ritual that was put into the religious texts after the fact to get the whole world continuously doing that binding spell, black magic ritual to bind and curse the name of Yeshua in, per, into in perpetuity, because he told them to continue doing it. Instead of keeping the Passover like Yahweh told them to do, Paul came along and said, forget the Passover. All you need to do is continue doing this feast right here, the communion. So instead of marking or in continuing to memorialize Yahweh delivering the Jews out of Egypt, because that's what the Passover represents, the night that they were delivered out of Egypt by all of that death and the killing of all the firstborn and all the rest of that stuff. Instead of continuing to commemorate that like Yahweh told them, Paul came along and said, you ain't got to do that no more. We're going to institute this new thing because Yeshua did this at the Last Supper. So we're going to forget about the Passover meal, and we want you to get on down with the cannibalistic meal. Eat of my flesh, drink of my blood. Hey, Natalie Rose, welcome. Yeah. Now, and again, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it's very likely that those books were written by people who never actually met Yeshua. I'm not saying that he didn't have disciples named Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but that's not who wrote those books. And the fact that those stories are so very similar, out of all the events and all the things that could have happened in 3 whole years, and they were all told exactly the same, it is not likely at all that those books were written by those individuals. But the fact that all 3 of them come up with that eat my flesh, drink my blood, that is because they were laying in, they really wanted to drill down on getting humanity to participate in that curse and that black magic binding spell. And people do it to this day. Like I said, billions of people on this planet do it to this day. And then that he said he knew that the devil was going to enter into Judas. It mentions that twice. That the devil basically gave Judas the words to say, that he entered into him, and he knew it. Now, why is, and this is in the chat in John, so people can't say it means something else, because this is John 13, back in John chapter 8, they told them that the devil, the one that Yeshua was referring to as the devil, Satan, was the Elohim that the Jews were worshiping. But he said that's not his father. He came from the Elohim, and he was going back to the Elohim once they finished this little piece of business they had to take care of here. And again, how is it that we believe in John 3:16 that the one that refers to the one who loved the world so much that he gave his only son, so that whoever believed like him may not perish but attain eternal life? That can't be the same Elohim that they're referring to here. It's not the two, it's not the same at all. So when we read John 1:1 and John 3:16, and then go and read John chapter 8, we have to understand that there is more than one Elohim being mentioned here in these scriptures, and that the one Yeshua referred to as the devil is that primary Elohim that took over the whole show in this Bible. That's the same Elohim that's referred to as Satan, the devil, in Revelation, because Revelation couldn't have been written all that far apart from the Gospel of John, because John didn't live that long. John didn't even live up to Yeshua's actual execution attempt. Like I said, he was imprisoned and beheaded before they took Yeshua into custody. But you gotta actually pick this book apart and read it for what it say, not for what the pastor tell you it say. You have to know a little bit about history so you can rearrange it. They don't remix it all, because like I said, they got this. It's nice and tidy because of the way it comes up to that whole climax and the war and the this and that. Because he's given an end time prophecy through this dream that John was given. So they just stick it at the back of the book. And it's fine being back there because for real, it is talking about the things that are happening today. But this book, the Revelation, the Apocalypse, was written, but long before, like I said, before Jesus actually died. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of, I said, crazy interesting stuff when you turn around and unscramble it and read it in its actual context. I just think it's super interesting. It also reminded me, like I said, of going back into the Gospel of John because he was saying the not the Gospel of John, the Gospel of Judas. Now that was not written by Judas, but that's one of the apocryphal texts. But it really goes kind of starts branching off into some of the Gnostic teachings. And Yeshua said that he knew, like he understood that his disciples really didn't get it. That's why he was saying, Judas, you know who I am. You understand better than any of the rest of the disciples, and yet you're still playing along with this. You're participating in this as well. So I know it's something I got to do, and I love you. I have much love for you, but please don't think it's okay that just because we arranged to do this little passion play and all of that, that we cool like that because you supposed to know better and you're still, yeah. So you said the foot washing was an initiation. Yeah. When you were in church, you don't remember them explaining that Revelation was written by you. You don't remember them explaining that it was written by a different John. It doesn't. No, they're not going to be able to explain that because it's not. It says Revelation chapter 1, it says that this was a revelation of Jesus Christ which God gave to him to show his servants the things that must take place. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, who bore witness to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, even all that he saw. And I mean, even if it was supposed to be a different John, it's a revelation that was given by Yeshua to John in a dream form. Either way, whether it was given before he died or after he died. But as far as I know, because when he talks about the vision of the Son of Man in here, he says, I, John, your brother and partner in the tribulation and the kingdom and the patient endurance that are in Yeshua, was on the island called Patmos on account of the word of God and the testimony of Yeshua. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet saying, write what you see in a book and send it to the seven churches, to Ephesus and to Smyrna and to Pergamum and to Thyatira and to Sardis and to Philadelphia and to Laodicea. So he was imprisoned at that point. Like I said, the people don't understand. Yeshua and his compatriots were hated for real. When he first came back into Jerusalem, they was looking to stone him. Fact of the matter, it was, I'm trying to see, according to John, hold on. Yeah. Right, his baptism happens in John chapter 1, and they start questioning him before, by the time we get to John 1, hold on. Well, John 1:19, it says, and this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who are you? He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, I am not the Christ. And they asked him, what then? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? And he answered, no. So they said to him, who are you? We need to give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself? He said, I am the voice of the one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as the prophet Isaiah said. Now they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, why? Then why are you baptizing if you are neither the Christ, nor Elijah, nor the prophet? John answered them, I baptize with water, but among you stands one you do not know, even he who comes after me, the strap of whose sandal I am not worthy to untie. These things took place in Bethany across the Jordan where John was baptizing. And like I said, John had not, like I said, he hadn't been, Yeshua had not been long baptized because, yeah, the following day, I was trying to see, it may have been the third day after that, that they was looking to stone him already. But they were plotting on his death early on from his baptism point till he, like I said, soon basically from the time he came out of the wilderness on the other side of that 40-day fast, as soon as he started his ministry, they was looking to do him in. You said we know that there are things hidden in plain sight. Why some were not allowed to read? 'Twas the path of no resistance. Yeah, and not only that, without, it's almost like, for me anyway, and I can't say this is for anybody, but for me, reading the Lost Book of Enki was like a key that unlocked the Bible for me. I couldn't read it the same after that because I noticed enough of the same names and places and all of that popping up to give the Lost Book of Enki some credence. And then when I actually started reading into it, then it kind of let me know that one doesn't negate the other, but you do kind of sort of need one to unlock the other. So it's not even about resistance because I mean, it took me forever to figure this stuff out because I didn't have access to that other book. And hadn't, I was so sick of religion though, to be honest, I wasn't diligently reading in it every day like this, like I am now. I had put it aside for a long time. And like the stuff you read as a kid, it's easy to forget or not get the full context of a lot of that stuff when you're not going back and reading it. Baptizing is, yeah, truthfully, it is kind of a binding ritual, Paul, because baptism symbolizes dying to the previous way of life. When you go down into the water, it symbolizes dying to the former way of life, and coming out symbolizes being reborn into the new way of life, which is an agreed upon spiritual contract to serve the God that you being baptized to. That's why I had to renounce my dedications and baptisms. It's not a formal thing. I just did it in meditation, but I was baptized twice because I just thought the religion that I got baptized was under was wrong. And I was so diligent and sincere. I wanted to get it right. So I went and got baptized as a Baptist as well. And when I learned better, I prayerfully and tearfully renounce both of them. John the Baptist was not the disciple John, and the John of Revelation wasn't either of them. John the Baptist was executed. Well, that's what I say. John, the Gospel of John does say that John the Baptist was executed. Even if the John that wrote the book of Revelation wasn't the same one, the book almost had to have been written somewhere around the time of Yeshua's death. It would have been a little weird and odd. Let me look up and see if they can give us the year that they think Revelation was written. Most of the New Testament was written anywhere between 60 and 100 years after Yeshua's so-called death. And again, I keep saying so-called because they claim that they executed him in 33 CE, but there's folks in many parts of the world that understand that he lived to be 80 years old. Some say up to 48 years old, some say 80 years old, but they did not actually execute him when they claim they did. So, you know, yeah, the book of Revelation was most likely written around 96 CE. during the reign of Emperor Domitian. And again, most of Revelation is in symbol. That's why I don't get into a whole lot of that. However, like I said, you got to remember one thing: the Bible was first and foremost initially produced by the Roman Catholic Church. That is a Luciferian organization, and under Luciferian law, they must give you the truth, even if it is embedded in a butt ton of lies. So you can pick through with discernment and find the truth somewhere. And the fact that a lot of these texts, I do believe that many of these texts are revisions or portions of ancient texts that they actually dug up out the ground and found. I don't think all of these texts were completely made up. Most of the New Testament is stuff that was written by this Paul cat or whoever was claiming to be Paul or whatever. That's why I don't dig around in the New Testament as much. But the Old Testament texts, those were real texts that they just chose to reappropriate into the foundational piece of this new religion. They brought like I said, they brought in a lot of pagan traditions, ancient texts, a lot of different things from all kinds of different belief systems went into the formation of Christianity. So yeah, the Old Testament, those are real books that tell the story of a very violent, vengeful, bloodthirsty storm god named Yahweh. And if you understand what you're reading, you can see the insertions of some more compassionate interventions that are most likely because of the ones that were painted as evil and sinful and all of that. There was a time when the people tried to escape that storm god and went back to worshiping some of the other Elohim, but the more compassionate Elohim, Enki, has been on the sidelines trying to help humanity where and however, whenever and however he could, every step of the way, because he has been opposed to what his brother has been doing every step of the way. That's why I said, even though I know Revelation is symbolic, a lot of it is symbolic towards the end when they're telling you how this is going to wind up. I believe that whether it happens in our lifetime or not, it's still telling you eventually what's going to happen. And because of the things that we can look back through history and see what has already happened, it kind of sort of, we don't have an exact timeline, but even the Christians believe we got to be close. Wasn't it a couple weeks ago they all swore down we was going to be gone because the rapture was going to take us all away? So they believe it too. Yeah, one small piece of info can change the entire reality. Truthfully, because here's the thing, and that's one of the reasons they put all of this stuff in here, because we are powerful creators. And the more they can convince mass consciousness to accept some of this stuff, they can actually shift us into a collective timeline that these things will be enacted. Because the more people, if it wasn't for people beginning to awaken, they are trying to march us towards the Armageddon. Like, seriously, humanity will be marching itself right off the end of the cliff, except for the fact there will be some dissenters who ain't going for that. That's what, again, why do you think that I come up here 2 or 3 times a week and start trying to talk to people about it? So they can make a choice and figure out the fact that they've been on the wrong side and didn't know it, so that they can make a conscious choice and make a change, so they can change their reality instead of being herded off like sheeple off the edge of the cliff right to Armageddon, so that they can get trapped up in that 3D matrix and re-upticked back into another thing. Those of y'all that are in the WhatsApp group, I sent a link. Dude, these people keep having these conversations with Chat GPT, and honestly, even though AI won't give you all of the truth, some of the way they word those questions, I believe what they're saying. I really do, for some of them, because they were noticing the fact that there are entities here that feed off of drama and negativity and chaos. Yahweh is a chaos God. And even it's when, like I said, they want to say that Yahweh and Set ain't the same, but in Egypt, in Egyptian mythology, Set was a storm god, a chaos god. They feed off that energy. It is called Lush. And there are non corporeal extraterrestrials that feed off of that energy. Just they use us as batteries. They showed y'all that in the Matrix. Partially placate us with the entertainment and the money and the sex and the food and the excess and all the rest of that. But at the end of the day, it's the wars and the violence and all the rest of that stuff that actually feeds their energy. They keep us placated with the luxury items, but it's the drama and the anxiety that feeds them. I'm telling they secrets. I know that's why I've been shadow banned, Paul. I don't doubt it. And again, I know a lot of folks felt bad um, when the numbers started dropping, but I'm not surprised at all. Even if we hadn't banned anybody off this channel, it would have still happened because once I figured it out that I was actually blocking people entirely instead of timing them out, I went into my back office and opened it back up. Every single person that I ever inadvertently blocked, I unblocked them very quickly after that. It didn't matter. I got banned anyway because, like you said, now if I was up here hooping and hollering and continuing to promote the church's agenda, I have no doubt that I'd be at 50, 60,000 subscribers right now, monetizing some more stuff. But because of what I'm saying, I just have to be here for who I'm here for. Because I just wanted to be down in digital so that our children, our grandchildren, somewhere, somehow, somebody that can see this and continue to connect the dots too. Because I'm not saying I got all the answers and the be all of everything. I don't know, but it's a conversation that needs to be started being had because some of the other folks, like I said, there's a lot of folks that are looking at the ancient text, but they're so busy focused on the extraterrestrial aspect of it. They don't really stop to look at how it applies to us. But like I was saying before, if we have a cataclysm coming, and if they are genuinely showing us the truth hidden in plain sight, I believe that movie Knowing was way more important than most people will let us know. And I believe that the way we're going to be able to save ourselves or our lineages or whatever is based on whether our consciousness is expanded, whether we can awaken and accept the truth, whether we are willing to or able to turn off our worship gene and allow our energy, our vibration to rise into 4D, 5D awareness so that when these timelines split, we don't get stuck back in the 3D recycle. Because they keep saying it's gonna be a recycling. Even when they start talking about the rapture, they talk about the ones that's gonna be taken away. Now, unfortunately, Christians got it exactly backward. They don't understand. They're so stuck in the 3D by still clinging to that Christian nonsense that they're literally the ones that are going to be left behind, and they don't know that. And it's not even truly well, yeah, it is a left behind, but not in the way they think. Yep, the best way to keep slaves is to make them think they're free and the dragons eat the drama and fear. Exactly. They do not understand. We live in a velvet cage, but it is absolutely a cage. The fact that we work for so called money, which ain't nothing but ones and zeros on a computer screen and some paper that they print up with some special paint on it. But everything in our life ain't even built around money anymore. In America, it's built on credit. We don't, even though they've been, like I said, they sold our birthrights off to us. And I can't even get into all of that because I don't even know, I don't understand it all. But I know my mentor years ago was like, even the fact they call it a birth certificate. Our birth certificates are stock certificates. Our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution are a mission statement and articles of incorporation. Yeah, that straw man stuff, and it gets super complicated, and a lot of folks try to go about it. You know, they're declaring they independent, sovereign, blah blah blah, and unless or until there will come a time for that. But doing it too early just makes you stand out like a sore thumb, and it's damn near impossible to enforce. So I didn't really get like major into it. You said you coming back for Louche. What did I say? It's Louche is how I think they spell it. Robin, you have to look it up. There was an article, a video in Astro Legends, I think it was. I'll try to put it in the chat. In the WhatsApp group. Let me see. Video on Louche. Share to WhatsApp. And I'm gonna put it on the articles, items of interest in that playlist on the channel too, because people need to be aware of that. I'm making a note. Yeah, the straw man part of it is a little bit of it. It is. It's like I said, it's majorly complicated, and honestly, I'm definitely not trying to take the channel there because if the FBI will be probably sitting right back in our chat room again. And I'm like, yeah, no, good, yeah. There is. I mean, there have been people that have tracked it down and found out that, like I said, millions and millions and millions of dollars have been traded on all of us. We are chattel of our governments. Thank you, Antoine. Yeah, and that's the part that I didn't want to deal with, Paul, because I had so many people talking about doing that. But when I found out, especially for those that want to jump up and like, oh, I'm going to become a sovereign citizen and all that, if you even get stopped for a traffic ticket as a sovereign citizen, you could wind up sitting in Guantanamo Bay literally for the rest of your life because there's no court in the United States that has jurisdiction to hear your case. There's no attorneys that have jurisdiction to adequately represent you. The United States operates on maritime law. So if you come bebopping up as a sovereign citizen, there's no courtroom in the country that can hear your case. Just stick your ass in Guantanamo Bay and forget about you and go, hey, one more dummy gone. It's not worth it to me to go there. If you want to move, there will come a time when we can declare. I don't even know if we're going to be able to declare sovereign citizens. We will be able to renounce, or we'll be able to claim our citizens, our freedoms through all time and space under the universal. I think it's like the Universal Declaration of Independence or something. I've, and again, I've said it before. It's a long document to recite. I started to put that on the channel one time, but the full Universal Direct Declaration of Independence is a very long document to try to declare, but it basically frees you through all of the binding and the subterfuge and the ways we've inadvertently sold ourselves off through our signatures, our verbal assent, and everything through all timelines and all dimensions. And there will come a time to do that, but in the meantime, in between time, when you're sitting here moving and shaking in the world that we live in today, trying to buy groceries and have somewhere to live and all those kinds of things, you got to know, like Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And I just don't feel like, for me, this ain't the time right now to become sovereign. Yeah, exactly. You on their road, driving their cars, using their systems. We want the parts of government that work for us, but we want to turn around and declare ourselves sovereign. No, being a sovereign citizen only works if you're going to go out somewhere, buy your own little piece of independent land and never leave it. You're not going to shop in their stores. You're not going to fly on their airplanes, drive on their roads. You can't expect to go into their courtrooms and receive any kind of justice, because as a sovereign citizen, none of that will help you at all. It don't even apply to you. So that's why I say people need to go real slow when they start talking about becoming sovereign citizens. Not to mention the fact as jacked up as it is in the United States, it's still a powerful country to be in. Can you imagine what I would do if I went and declared myself a sovereign citizen and then decided to leave the country? You don't have no right to come back in. This is my home. As a sovereign citizen, I'm not even sure you can get a passport, but even if you did, if you leave the country of your birth and have declared yourself a sovereign citizen, you don't have a right to come back to the country of your birth. Yeah, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So I can get mad at the US all I want, but it's still my home. Yeah, in time, it'll come in time, and when the time comes, then that's what we do. But until that time, until there's an avenue to do it properly, I think it's very unwise for people to just jump out there on that limb by themselves, like I've been seeing people do for the last 20 years, arguing and fussing with the police and stuff, and having their children taken from them and all that. That's just, it's, yeah. I didn't think so. Yeah. And for that reason alone, I probably won't do it because I do want to travel. I think traveling is part of what I've got, as part of my mission, my vision that I've been shown. I, I have love for more than just the folks here. I'm a citizen of the world, and I got brothers and sisters in several parts of the world that I'd like to see and benefit and do things with. So yeah. And my thing is, I don't agree with everything that government does, but I like having smooth roads to ride on, and I like, honestly though, Antoine, if I'm gonna be traveling, I want somebody to track me. Years ago when I was single and talking about the ID, now I thought it through since, and I realized with all of the nanotech and the other things that they could do, but there have been some really high profile cases of people traveling alone that wound up missing. I was considering having myself chipped. Now I would not do that now because I know that every chip gonna have a kill switch in it. I definitely don't. I'm not gonna voluntarily allow anybody to chip my person, so I definitely don't mind having a tracking device on my passport. That don't bother me in the slightest because I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm not gonna be out there doing no high espionage or nothing. So I don't mind them being able to find me. Yeah, well, I can believe that part because pickpocketing is a real thing in most places, especially when they figure out you're traveling. But yeah, I still would like to know. Fact of the matter, that's one of the reasons that as much as iPhone irritates the fire out of me, is probably one of the reasons I will keep it too. As you travel around the world, being on iOS operating system could be very beneficial if something happens to you in another country. I at least want my children to have the closure of knowing where to find my body. You know what I mean? Yeah, that part. Did you just join a gang? No, you ain't joined no gang. Mm-mm-mm. We do have a little hood in us, though, just a little bit. You said it sounds dangerous for a woman not to have identification. Yeah. Well, truthfully, the more I really think about it in the times we're in now, that was years ago when I was considering traveling alone. I'm not going to travel alone anymore. I might travel alone to go meet up with one of my children or someplace, like just to get on the plane, but to actually be out and about vacationing, tourism, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not doing that alone. They got chips everywhere. Yeah, I just, like I said, I won't voluntarily allow them to put one in me. But considering the fact that they put nanotech in the jab a couple years ago, I wouldn't be surprised if every vaccine we take from here on out got some kind of tracking capabilities in it. Living in Phnom Penh, you don't carry your passport to nightclubs. If you robbed, you don't want to lose it, so you leave it at home. Carry a copy. Cambodia is usually accepted, yeah. And don't they even have? I mean, you can't use it in lieu of your big passport, but you can get like a little passport ID card to along with it for like 10 extra bucks or something that has your passport information in a little smaller card, just as another ID or whatever. Because yeah, I would trust me, I would. That would be my biggest thing that I would be concerned with is about being pickpocketed in another country. That's what I'm saying. I would what I was saying is basically the same thing you're saying, Antoine. If when I'm traveling, I would get the smaller copy to be able to use around as an ID without actually having my actual passport in hand. But even then, I'm gonna still have, the little thing that strapped to the inside of your thigh, on the back of your head, whatever. I'm not gonna have my wallet in a bag or whatever that can be easily pickpocketed because I get too caught up in looking at stuff and I don't want nobody bumping into me and then I look up and all my stuff gone. No. Oh yeah, now here, Natalie and I used to drive up and down. I'm in within the state or from one state to another or whatever. Here in the U.S., I don't have a problem with traveling alone. Here, I was talking about traveling internationally alone. I don't plan on going to Cambodia anytime soon, no, Antoine, that's for sure. Hey, Angel Guys, 1111. Same. Well, I didn't have my family not talk to me because, truthfully, when I say my family, the only family I had that talked to me anyway, Angel Guys, are my children, and three of my four children refused it. The only one in my immediate family that received the jab is my son, who's a sergeant in the Air Force. He had no choice because he was overseas and did not have the financial wherewithal to come out of the military immediately and bring himself and his uh, Albanian wife into the United States and set up house and all that on a 30-day notice. So they went ahead and just got the jab. Ooh, you from New Brunswick? Awesome, awesome. Welcome. Glad to have you here, Angel Guys. Oh, yeah. Now, my youngest child's father got he got the jab and two or three of the boosters, but it interestingly enough, he had a little issue with I think prostate cancer a few years before, but he was supposedly being cancer free. After getting the jab, he wound up having to go back into cancer treatment. Now I don't know if he may have had to anyway. I don't know. And again, I'm no longer in contact with him, so I don't know what his health has got, what's going on with him now. But yeah, he worked in healthcare, and he's real scared about a lot of that kind of stuff. So he immediately went and got the jab and at least three boosters. Yeah, I didn't trust it. Like I say, I was doing my little research on the sidelines and I just didn't see a need for it. And I don't regret that at all. And I'm not anti vaccination, I'm just anti that particular vaccination. I know when I start traveling around the world, there's a few that I got to get because I haven't had any kind of vaccines or shots or anything like that in 30 years. Uh, I don't do doctors much, period. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, now that's what I say. I knew that the fever would die down and it wouldn't be a big issue forever. I mean, some people still try to claim it's a real thing, and I'm like, after everything came out about Fauci and all the rest of them, you still think that that's a real issue? But okay, do y'all? But yeah, no, I won't be taking that. Now, I didn't honestly, Natalie. I heard people saying that. I honestly don't think that anybody, because of the way it went down, and that's genuinely something that was kind of sort of out of their control. I don't think it will cut anybody off from spirit that's supposed to get there. I mean, there may be other factors involved and the way they think and all the rest of that. But like you said, you were a school teacher, you need your job, all the rest of that good stuff. So I've heard people talking about how it would stop people from being able to awaken and ascend and all that, and I never quite believed that either. So yeah, y'all, it is now 10 p.m. I have very much enjoyed this conversation, but it is time for me to turn it in, because yeah, like I said, I got to get better about that. I think we all, well, I know various ones of us are from different places in the world, but I'm trying to start being better about being in the bed so I can be asleep by 11. You said you can still see spiritually after 4 shots. I hear you. Oh, you're so very welcome. You're welcome. And like I said, I'm enjoying the conversation and wouldn't mind staying up more. But hey, Alex Batty, welcome back. Oh goodness, and I'm getting ready to leave. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I said yesterday was the beginning, but truthfully today was, because I forgot I had a little bit of leftover something that I did partake of. So I am starting to fast again today. And I'm setting out on this plan to get myself situated to be more productive on the other two platforms as well. And kind of start streamlining some of the information I get to y'all. So yeah, I'm gonna really just have to start getting to bed earlier. You said you wanted to say so much. All I said was, all you said is it was planned. You lost your job as an NRA because you wouldn't get it, but your friends who got it lost their jobs because they didn't want to get the booster. Oh man, yeah. See, and that's what I'm saying. It was one of them damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I mean, I worked in travel at the time, so the world shut down, and I didn't do nothing but sit home and meditate and take salt baths and breathe and whatever. So I didn't need to go get it. I was like in fresh air, sitting by the sun. Oh wow. I'm so sorry to hear that, environment, that you lost your land because you wouldn't get it. Yeah. Here's the thing. I do understand that my situation looks weird to everybody else, but I can see how I was kind of led in so many different directions. Hey, Lunar Beats, welcome. I know you coming in on the tail end. I'm getting ready to turn in for the night. You said I should. Yeah, I do. Because I, again, y'all look it up. According to Chinese medicine, our systems go through a system of detox every night starting at 11 p.m. with the gallbladder. And I don't remember which systems cleanse, but it's like every 2 hours it switches out to a different system from 11 a.m. roughly to around 5 or 6 a.m. that it continues to cleanse your system. So since I'm starting on the fast and trying to get this 100-day challenge out the way and manifesting a bunch of stuff and doing all those other good things, do I like it? I use it. I don't know nobody that likes black seed oil. I mean, I like what it can do for us, but it's one of the most awful tasting things around. I take it in pill form though, so yeah. I got a bunch of supplements, and I may actually do the rundown of what all I'm using. I probably won't be taking everything every day, but yeah. Yeah, I know, because I'm gonna be to get caught up in a whole other conversation. Yeah. Ooh, you drink it straight up. Lord have mercy. Gross. But hey, that's good. Yep. Absolutely happy cleansing to those that are doing it. We'll talk more about that later. I will be on tomorrow night on Anunnaki Oracle Priestess for those who may want a little ready read. And then we'll be back here. Let me see, that's Thursday. I might try to make it back on here Friday. If not, I may it'll be Sunday. It depends on what happens on TikTok when I get out there, but we'll see. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Like I say, until next time, folks, peace and blessings to you. I love you. Namaste. Yep.